In Gans, I'm just plain David Gans without Gary Lambert, but it's really, really nice to be here with you, and it's nice to be doing this between sets thing on the Nugsnet streams of Dead and Company. It's been a wonderful tour so far. We're just about halfway through it. I'm enjoying the daylights out of the music, and being part of this thing with Nugs is also very cool. If you're looking at this on YouTube or on the social networks of Dead and Company as a free preview of set two, let me tell you what you didn't hear in set one. You can go back and see and listen to by buying the stream or subscribing to the audio feed. Why is that talking? I thought I turned that thing down. Oh well. Anyway, you heard Good Times, Scarlet Begonias, Deal, Black Throated Wind, Dire Wolf, Bird Song, and Going Down the Road Feeling Bad. That was a fine first set. We have no idea what's coming in the second set. If you're looking at this on the free preview, I guess you'll find out when they start playing again. And as I say, you can buy the stream and watch the whole thing, watch the second set live, and then go back and watch the first set right away. And when you do that, you have 48 hours to watch it as many times as you like. Now, I've taken advantage of that feature many times. In my professional capacity, I'm listening to this music to pull things for the radio, and Gary and I use little shorter bits on Tales from the Golden Road and stuff. So I very often want to go back and listen to the music again and pick up on the things that I missed and see if things were really as wonderful as I thought they were. And they usually turn out to have been as wonderful as I thought they were. So Nugs.net offers many, many different formats of, you can live stream shows on video. You can download the audio after the fact in various formats. And they also have a streaming service with a gigantic library that includes Dead and Company stuff going back to 2016. I believe they have lots of Further in there. Bobby Weir and Wolf Bros. They also have lots of non-Dead related stuff. They've got Goose and Yes. And I don't remember what all else they've got. Fish for damn sure, and Wilco. And lots of Grateful Dead stuff as well from the Grateful Dead's archive. So the streaming service is organized around live music, which is an important distinction that makes it different from a lot of the other streaming services, which tend to be oriented toward albums and studio releases and things like that. But Nugsnet was designed by a tape trader, originally designed to facilitate tape trading, and it turned into a wonderful way of everybody doing music. Those of us who are musicians and want to market our music in wholesome and live music-oriented ways, we love Nugsnet because it allows us to put up our complete shows in whatever format that we like. And that's a really, really nice feature. Anyway, I'm going to cut this short because we've got a pre-recorded interview. Gary Lambert and I co-host this thing, and we've been pre-recording the interviews this time for logistical simplicity. And we've just had a great time doing interviews with lots of different people. And tonight is no exception. This next interview you're going to hear will include Gary Lambert as well, as I say, because it was pre-recorded. It's with Rosie McGee, a photographer and storyteller who became a member of the Grateful Dead scene very, very early in the game, to wit, at the Muir Beach acid test, and traveled extensively with the band, was personally involved with the band, worked for the band for many, many years, and has published two wonderful books of her photography and stories of that wonderful, unique life. And she's really, really good at telling the story. She has a new coffee table book, and that's what Gary Lambert and I wanted to talk with her about primarily. Please enjoy this pre-recorded interview with Rosie McGee, and when it's over, we'll go back to that please stand by card there, and you'll have to just wait a few more minutes until the band comes back for set two. Gary Lambert will be back with me tomorrow, and it'll be a lot more fun to do this with him on board, I guarantee you. So enjoy, and we'll see you later. It's so wonderful. It's so wonderful to have Rosie McGee with us. This is a woman who's been on the Grateful Dead scene since the Muir Beach acid test and has published two wonderful books from her adventures in that world. And along the way, took some amazing photographs of the Grand Canyon too. So, hi, Rosie. It's great to see you.
Hi,
Hey,
good to
Rosie.
see you guys. Why, it's only been a few weeks this time.
That's right. We
Yeah.
saw each other at the Skull and Roses Festival, which was such a wonderful
Oh my goodness.
weekend plus. It was like 4 days. How many days?
I
It was
don't
a
know.
lot of
5 days.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort of, you know, it was crazy. It was wonderful. All that
Yeah.
great music, and it was a big hugathon for me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
For
Well,
us
for
too.
everybody. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's like, oh my God, it's you, and saw all kinds of people that I think I talked about this before on Tales from the Golden Road, but I ran into people that I hadn't seen. Well, Doug Irwin, I mean,
Right.
he was probably the longest since I'd ever even spoken to him.
Mhm.
Doug Irwin and I used to work at Alembic in the early 70s, and we ran into each other at Skull and Roses, and that was crazy. It was
Well, I'm glad
crazy.
you brought up Alembic because your name has come up several times in the current season of the good old Grateful Dead
Yes.
cast, which
Yeah.
is, we're talking about 1973 and the sort of burgeoning business empire of the Grateful Dead and stuff. So, and one of the coolest things about this season and what we're learning is how important and underappreciated the women are who ran that world. We heard about the travel agency, the booking agency, and you were an integral part of that. You worked at Alembic and also worked in those other enterprises, right?
Right. Well, we started Frankie, who was Bob Weir's girlfriend at the time, started a travel agency called Fly By Night Travel. Here, and our motto or our tagline was "Here today, gone tomorrow." And we just had a lot of fun, but it was the hardest job I've ever had. But anyway, she started a travel agency in order to book the band's travel, and within the commissions, there was a room for not only to save money for the band, but for the family and the wives and girlfriends and other friends to pay less for tickets and have a viable business at the same time. So she started this agency, and she snagged me away from Alembic to be the lead travel agent for the band. We also handled the new writers and Boss Skaggs and Ramblin' Jack. And I mean, it was crazy. It was the hardest job I've ever had in my many years of working. And there were a lot of bennies involved.
Yeah.
In both senses of that word?
Well, I don't know what the second sense is. I'm kind of ignorant. I don't know.
Benefits and Benzedrine.
Oh, okay. No, it was more, yeah, it was more Benzedrine than benefits. Yeah, it was pretty exhausting, and it just was crazy. I mean, this is 1973, and no, there was no digital anything. There was no computers on my desk. There was no fax machines. There was nothing. Everything was done. I had a headset for my telephone, and I booked when I booked a great. I told this on the podcast, but I would have a 40 column column pad, and I'd have the band members and the crew on one end and the dates of the tour, and I did it all in pencil. That was how I scheduled it, and then a big fat eraser.
Right. And dates on the tour were getting changed all the time. And
right. And
like
then we had
entire,
to handwrite. We had to
yeah.
handwrite the tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just was crazy. It was crazy.
But it was a manifestation of the strength and the wisdom and the intelligence of this group of people. I mean, Bear told me the first time he ever met the Grateful Dead, he said this was the smartest group of people I'd ever met, and it seemed like you guys, had a strong sense of purpose and commitment to this mission, and that all of you, it seems, found niches in there and ways to make yourselves useful to the collective.
I just thought of something. I've been asked like many times. In fact, I think you've asked me, David, this question in past interviews about the older days, like when we were all living together and the women did all the women's work and blah blah blah. And at the time, my answer has always been, no, it's not like that. We were a group of friends who all lived together because we couldn't afford to do it any other way. And we were gathered around this band, and whatever needed to get done got done by whoever was available and skilled to do it. So if it included making dinner or doing laundry, okay, fine. But if Jerry needed new guitar strings and Ramrod was busy, I'd go to the store. It was like, and so going from that, moving forward into 73, when things are, they're going on the road all the time, they're becoming a well-known band, and booking a tour is becoming this huge thing. We did all step in, but the difference was by then it was creating viable businesses. It wasn't just to help the band. Sam Cutler started out of town tours because there was this need. I mean, the tasks that agency did had to be done by somebody. And so the band was perfectly happy to have somebody that they knew and trusted take on that role. But at the same time, it was a business that Sam owned, and the same thing with the fly-by-night travel and all of that. So we all just kind of stepped in. In my case, the travel agency, I longed to travel. I love to travel. And I found out that if you could work if you could be a travel agent for a solid year, you could buy a really low cost round the world airline ticket. And so, I don't know if you could still do that, but I want to, and as I've said in my other book and in interviews, the scene was getting really funky mostly because of the use of cocaine, but also all other reasons. They were growing really fast. They were all of a sudden becoming popular, and they traveled all the time. And, it was getting unpleasant for me. I didn't like how it felt anymore. So I was anxious to get out of there.
Yeah. And it was also, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, it was also a period of unprecedented ambition in the Grateful Dead in terms of self-determination. Travel agency, booking agency, running their own record company, being an essentially self-managed band. They were really trying to be independent on all fronts, and no band had ever done that to that extent. So the fact that you and other people in the scene were finding those roles and getting good at them, and teaching themselves on the job is really
absolutely
pretty unprecedented. And I was so glad in the Deadcast that you gave long overdue recognition to the women in the scene who were pioneering all this stuff. You mentioned Susan Kreuzman, who basically established merchandising as a viable income stream for the Grateful Dead. And of course, it became hugely important to them. And so they really had every aspect of the business covered. And the women who were involved, Frankie Weir, Christine Bennett, Sally Mann Romano, who is, in addition to having worked for the band and for Jefferson Airplane, is also one of the most hilarious people on the face of the earth.
I know. Her
stories of the battles between Bill Graham and Sam Cutler are just incredibly amusing. So you really conveyed a sense in the Deadcast of being in the middle of all that, and yet simultaneously being on what seemed like a runaway train, but also really being in control of it.
Yeah, it was a good time, and I at the agency, the travel agency, I did my 1 year, and a year and 1 day I quit.
And where did you go? What did you do?
Well, funny story. I thought I thought I was on my way to go around the world. 3 months before that year was going to be up, I met Greg Endy, who I started dating and was starting to fall in love with. And I'm going, after all this time in this scene, and I'm ready to leave forever, and I meet somebody, who lives, at the time he lived in Taos, New Mexico. And I just like, oh. So when the ticket arrived, it wasn't a ticket, it was a voucher for a ticket. And I had to send in whatever the payment was and then wait up to 3 weeks to get the actual ticket. So by then, Greg and I had been seeing each other for a while and knew that there was something going on. And he'd gone back to Taos. So I went to Taos. I quit my job, sold my stuff, moved out, went to Taos to wait for the ticket. And then I went to Nepal. And, I spent a few weeks with Greg waiting for the ticket. And we established that when I was done traveling, I'd come back and live with him. So I made it to Nepal. I made it about a month or so, and then I went back to Taos. Love always wins out with me. It's just going to be that way. I just couldn't see continuing around the world, not knowing what would come of this relationship that might turn into something really dramatic. So, and it did.
Yes.
So that's my story.
And it resulted in a marriage and a son, and which led to grandchildren.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
And along the way, I know you lived in different places, because when I first met you, you were living in Sonoma County in the 80s, and then you wound up working at the Grand Canyon for many years and publishing all those amazing photographs.
I have moved more times than anybody I know. Seriously, I mean, from the beginning, from the time that I moved out of my parents' home. And, I've lived all over Marin County, a couple places in Sonoma. I lived in Taos with Greg. And it's just, I don't know why. I don't know. I used to call it buffeted by the winds of fate.
And now
Very
you're
nice.
now you're in Portland, Oregon, and one of the things that's going on is that you have an excellent recent book
Thank
called
you.
My Grateful Dead Photographs and the Story. How's it?
My Grateful Dead photos and how I came to take them, 1966 to 1991.
It's a fabulous book full of great photos and stories, and we want to talk about that a little bit and let people watching this know how they can find out more and get a copy of it.
Okay. Well, it's a 340-page hardbound full color art book. It emphasizes the photos. There are 400 photos approximately, and 40% of those photos have never been published before this book. And that's of interest to a lot of people, as I've heard. And it's beautifully designed by Don Pacework of Petaluma. Just when he presented me with the cover design, I actually cried.
Oh,
Because we had 2 short conversations about, a cover could have been anything. And I gave him a few indicators of what I liked and what I was looking for. And he came back with this thing that was so perfect that it made me cry.
I
But
think I'm not as surprised by that as you seem to be, because I think that there's a certain sort of a bias frequency that all of us who love the Grateful Dead share, and it puts us all on a similar wavelength. And so, I don't think Don was coming from an entirely alien place, because you both love so many of the same things.
well, okay. Yeah, I agree with the I agree with the beginning of that. That we are all on the same wavelength, but his the design has really nothing to do with the Grateful Dead or the 60s or anything. In fact, that was the first conversation we had was, do you want to use any iconography or anything? I said, no, 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 no.
Right.
So
Yeah.
anyway, we went on from that. He designed a beautiful, not only the cover, but the templates for the pages to which I inserted all the photographs. And he just did a wonderful job. In fact, I don't know if you guys know this, but we recently, I consider this our book. We recently won a national award, 2 national awards. We submitted the book for the Independent Publisher Book Awards. And in the category of coffee table books, we got the gold medal.
Wow,
Right.
congratulations.
And
It is a
first
beautiful book.
place, yeah. And after I submitted it for the category, I also submitted it for the cover because I thought Don deserved recognition. It's really an amazing cover. Not only the design, but it's got gold and copper foil and embossed and all of that. It's just really beautiful. And so I submitted it separately under the cover category, and we won 3rd place, so the bronze medal.
Fabulous.
For that,
Congratulations.
for Don. So I'm really happy about that.
So where can people
Anyway,
find out more about this book and
Yeah.
order a copy?
Okay, so a month ago yesterday, I launched a little Shopify store to sell the only product on there is signed and unsigned copies of this book. And it's the 2nd printing. The first printing was a result of a Kickstarter, and it sold out 1,600 copies,
Wow.
which was amazing to me. And it gave me the courage to go out on a limb and order, because I'm the publisher and it's self-published, so it's all my deal. So I ordered 1,200 books, and it's on a Shopify store. It's called rosiescoffeetablebook.com.
rosiescoffeetablebook.com.
All one word. I mean, I think that'd be the easiest thing to remember.
Yeah.
So
That says it plain. Yeah.
that's what's on there. That's all you can't buy anything else there.
And as our time runs down here, I just want to say that
Yeah.
the thing that really touches me about your book is it is so much the product of your comfort and familiarity with those guys. It's not a Jim Marshall like saying, all right, sit there, pose for this. And Jim was great at that. And every photographer's got a different method, but this book conveys such an intimacy and your comfort around them, their comfort around you. So you get shots that no other photographer would. And I find them just incredibly touching. It's really their family pictures in a way.
Oh, thank you. I've been really gratified by the reception, and I'm really enjoying the give and take on social media with people that have bought the book and received it, and how they come back with their comments. And they love the photos, and of course they love the band, they love the photos, but a lot of comments are about thanking me for historical legacy,
Yes.
and there were photos as I was choosing the photos. There were photos that technically were not very good photos, but I had to think to myself, run it through the filter of, if I don't put this in the book, no one's ever going to see this photograph.
Right.
And so I went ahead and put in some that are a little bit blurry or they're whatever.
It's a glorious book. It really is
Thank you.
beautiful, and I'm very happy to spread the word about it. And that we are out of time. We have to turn this back over to the stage so Dead and Company can play set 2.
Okay, well, have a great time and love you guys. Thanks for having me on again, and
Love
bye
you.
everybody. Love
And
you.
go to
Love you too, Rosie.
rosiescoffeetablebook.com, everyone.
Great. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
There we go about sailing up and down, looking for a shove in some direction. Guided from the top, there's nothing you can stop. Lord, you know they made a fine connection. They love each other. Lord, you can see that's true. Lord, you can see that's true. Lord, you can see that's true. He could pass his time around some other night, but you know he chose this place beside. Don't get in the way. There's nothing that you can see, nothing that you need to add on to. They love each other. Lord, you can see that's true. Lord, you can see that's true. Lord, you can see that's true. Doesn't they explain? It's like a diesel train. Better not be there when it rolls over.